The history of warfare in the territory that later became Nigeria did not begin with colonial conquest, nor with the Biafran War, nor with the insurgencies of the modern era. It began long before the word Nigeria was coined by Flora Shaw in 1914. Before amalgamation, before colonial rule, and before the arbitrary merging of various ethnic nations under a single flag, the lands now known as Nigeria were home to independent kingdoms, republics, emirates, and confederacies. Each possessed its own political institutions, military systems, religious traditions, and diplomatic networks. Among these states, the Kingdom of Lagos, known to its inhabitants as Eko, stood as one of the most dynamic and strategically important. Around the mid-17th century, Eko emerged as an organized kingdom under the leadership of King Adu, traditionally regarded as the first Oba of Lagos. The son of a shipper, King Adu consolidated royal authority after the Benin Empire extended its influence over the region. During his reign, approximately between 1630 and 1669, he established the monarchy, strengthened political institutions, organized the administration of the growing settlement, and laid the foundations for what would become one of West Africa's most influential coastal kingdoms. Situated on a network of islands and lagoons along the Atlantic coast, Eko became both a commercial gateway and a military stronghold. It controlled vital maritime routes linking the Yoruba hinterland to international trade networks stretching to Brazil, Cuba, Britain, and Portugal. Palm oil, cola nuts, ivory, textiles, and, during the era of the transatlantic slave trade, enslaved persons passed through its ports. The kingdom's prosperity attracted merchants from across West Africa and Europe, making Lagos one of the busiest trading centers along the Gulf of Guinea. Wealth flowed into the kingdom, and where wealth accumulated, struggles for power were never far behind. The battle for the throne. The civil war between Kosoko and Akintoye in the mid-19th century was ostensibly a dynastic dispute over succession to the throne. Yet it became far more than a family quarrel. It was a conflict that exposed the fault lines of internal politics, competing economic interests, and foreign ambitions. Most significantly, it invited direct British military intervention and set in motion the process that transformed Lagos from a sovereign African kingdom into a British colony. In many respects, this war was the opening act in the larger drama of colonial conquest in what would become Nigeria. Eko before colonial rule. To understand the conflict, one must first appreciate the sophistication and importance of pre-colonial Lagos. Eko was founded by Wari Yoruba settlers and later integrated into the broader sphere of the Edo or Benin Empire. For centuries, the Oba of Benin exercised varying degrees of influence over Lagos, and some traditions maintain that early rulers of Eko were installed with Benin's blessing. Over time, however, Lagos developed into a largely autonomous Yoruba kingdom, maintaining diplomatic and cultural links with both Benin and other Yoruba polities. The ruler of Lagos, known as the Oba, governed with the assistance of influential chiefs and military commanders. Political legitimacy depended not only on royal descent but also on support from noble families, commercial elites, and war leaders. Succession disputes were common, as multiple princes often possessed credible claims to the throne. By the early 19th century, Lagos had become one of the most important ports in West Africa. Its harbor attracted European traders, Afro-Brazilian returnees, and merchants from across the region. This prosperity strengthened the monarchy but also intensified competition among elites seeking control over trade revenues and political patronage. The legacy of Oba Olusegun Kotere. The roots of the conflict lay in the family of Oba Olusegun Kotere, one of Lagos's most notable rulers. He had several sons, among them Osunlokan, Adel, and Akitoye, commonly spelled Akintoye in some accounts. Another major figure, Kosoko, was Olusegun Kotere's grandson through Prince Osunlokan. Following the death of Oba Olusegun Kotere in the early 19th century, succession to the throne of Lagos became increasingly contested. The crown passed through different branches of the royal family, including the reigns of Oba Adel Ajosin, Oba Osunlokan, and later Oba Adewu Ojulari. These successive transitions were marked by political rivalry, competing claims to legitimacy, and struggles for influence among royal factions and influential chiefs. The disputes weakened the unity of the kingdom and created lasting bitterness within the royal house. It was against this backdrop of contested succession that the rivalry between Prince Kosoko and Prince Akintoye eventually emerged, setting the stage for the Lagos Civil War and opening the door to growing British intervention in the kingdom's affairs. Prince Kosoko, ambitious and politically astute, emerged as a formidable contender. He cultivated strong alliances with warrior chiefs and commercial interests tied to the slave trade. Akitoye, by contrast, was viewed by some as more conciliatory and willing to compromise with external powers. He possessed his own supporters among the aristocracy and among groups that favored moderation over confrontation. Thus, the struggle between Kosoko and Akintoye represented more than personal rivalry. It reflected competing visions for the future of Lagos and competing alliances among powerful political and economic actors. The economic stakes, trade and slavery. By the 1840s, the Atlantic slave trade was under increasing pressure from Britain, which had abolished the trade and was using naval power to suppress it. However, slavery remained deeply embedded in regional economies, and many influential merchants in Lagos profited from the export of enslaved persons to the Americas. Kosoko was associated with those interests and was determined to preserve the economic autonomy of Lagos. He regarded British anti-slavery policies as a threat not only to wealth but also to sovereignty. Akitoye, after his eventual exile, adopted a more pragmatic stance. Recognizing that British military support could restore him to power, he agreed to cooperate with British demands, including the abolition of the slave trade. The contest for the throne therefore became intertwined with the global struggle between Britain's imperial ambitions and the established economic order of West Africa. The rise of Kosoko. Kosoko was widely admired for his courage, charisma, and military leadership. He commanded the loyalty of experienced warriors and influential chiefs, including many who resented Akintoye's policies and questioned his authority. Tensions escalated when Oba Akintoye attempted to marginalize Kosoko and his supporters. According to oral traditions, one confrontation involved a ceremonial salute interpreted as an act of defiance. Whether symbolic or practical, the episode deepened mistrust and pushed the two factions toward open conflict. Kosoko eventually launched a rebellion. Akitoye was defeated and forced to flee Lagos. Kosoko then assumed control of Eko and ruled from the royal palace, consolidating his authority and presenting himself as the legitimate defender of the kingdom. Oba Akitoye in exile. Defeated but not resigned, Oba Akitoye sought refuge first in Abeokuta and later among allies who remained loyal to him. During exile, he pursued diplomatic efforts to regain the throne. The British saw in Akitoye an opportunity to expand influence on the coast. British officials and missionaries had long sought greater access to Lagos, both to suppress the slave trade and to promote commercial dominance and Christianity. Akitoye entered into negotiations with British representatives. He pledged to prohibit the slave trade and to cooperate with British commercial interests if restored. This agreement transformed the local succession dispute into an international geopolitical contest. British strategic interests and foothold for broader expansion. Britain's motives were complex. Humanitarian rhetoric concerning the slave trade was genuine for many abolitionists and missionaries, but it also aligned neatly with imperial objectives. Control over Lagos would secure a vital port, open inland markets, and establish a foothold for broader expansion. British naval officers had already demonstrated willingness to use force along the West African coast. They considered Kosoko an obstacle to their plans because he resisted external interference and maintained economic networks Britain sought to dismantle. The decision to intervene militarily was therefore as much about empire as about abolition. The bombardment of Lagos, 1851. In November and December 1851, the British launched a major naval assault against Lagos. The operation is often called the reduction of Lagos. The first attack met determined resistance. Kosoko's defenders fought with exceptional resolve, using muskets, artillery, and defensive positions around the city. British casualties and logistical difficulties forced a temporary withdrawal. The British returned with greater force. Their warships bombarded Lagos with superior naval artillery, devastating fortifications and causing widespread destruction. Smoke filled the air as buildings burned and civilians fled. Oba Kosoko and his supporters resisted fiercely, but they could not match the technological advantage of the British fleet. Eventually, he withdrew from Lagos and established himself in Epa, where he retained influence and continued to challenge British-backed authority. The bombardment marked one of the earliest and most consequential uses of direct British military force in the region. Restoration of Oba Akitoye. After Kosoko's retreat, Akitoye was reinstated as Oba of Lagos under British protection. His restoration symbolized a profound shift in the balance of power. Although he sat on the throne, his authority was now inseparable from British military backing. Akitoye signed agreements committing Lagos to suppress the slave trade and cooperate with British policy. These commitments weakened the kingdom's independence and entrenched foreign influence in internal governance. For Britain, the restoration was a strategic triumph. They had installed a friendly ruler without formal annexation, achieving effective control through political dependency. Thank you for watching part 1 of Chapter 3 of History of Wars in Nigeria. For the full chapter and more, get your copy on Amazon or scan the QR code on the screen. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more chapters and historical content.